welcome back. Happy September. Today is September 1st, and I have started one of the two Halloween holiday pieces that I'm planning on completing. Yes, I'm crazy, but I need to get cracking. This first one is a Houlihan piece. And it is, let's see, what size is it? It's 60 by 45. I think that I may have not gone large enough. I've been working on this all day today. I wanted to get started because doing two pieces, if I don't get moving, you know, I may not get them done. I want to do one piece for here at the shelter for the kids and one piece for my daughter. I did get this 60 by 45. I kind of went back to the Houlihan site today to try and get a picture of the thumbnail that I could show you guys, but it's no longer available. So that's kind of scary, kind of spooky to me. I'm going to try to give you a glimpse at this thumbnail. I did do an unboxing on this piece. So yeah, with glare and everything else, it's just going to be really tough for you guys to see. But let's see. Oh, if it would focus, that's not too bad. Well, it gives you an idea. So like I said, I'm calling this the Haunted Dollhouse. So far, it's been really fun. I've enjoyed working on it. It's working up really quickly. I appreciate that. It is a Houlihan piece, so I'm not taking any chances. I started in the middle. I'm going to work my way out. The drills seem to be fairly decent quality so far, but we'll see. But like I said, the one thing about this is I think I really probably did not go large enough. I'm trying not to be too judgy to begin with, but as I'm looking at some of these areas that I completed, it actually looks better in the camera. I think this is a ghost right here, right there where my fingernail is. I think this blob here is supposed to be Frankenstein, and I'm not sure what this little person is over here. I'm not really seeing it. I see some curtains right here. I do see that. It looks a little bit better, I think, probably in the viewfinder than it actually does in person. But we'll see how this goes. This is one of the two pieces that not only am I trying to complete for the holidays, but I'm also trying to complete because I'm participating in the Instagram community event that's being put on by Tiny Worlds of Wonder and Distracted by Diamonds, the Drills and Chills community event. I think that's really fun. I really love Halloween. I really love creating decor for both my daughter and here at the house. So I figured I might as well have some fun with it. So I thought we would do a whip and chat. And since we are going to do a whip and chat on a Halloween piece, I thought that what I would like to do with my whip and chats on this one and maybe the next one that I'm going to be doing is kind of have my whip and chats be somewhat Halloween themed. I don't normally do a lot of tags. I've done one tag with the famous Shanda Panda over at Creatively Shanda. Go check her out. I have done one tag with her, but I don't know. For whatever reason, I have never done tags. So I'm just gonna pick some Halloween topics and kind of talk about those during my whip and chats. Before we get started, I did want to show you how I kitted up this time. It's really different from any way that I normally kit up. I decided to give Harbor Freight containers a try. I wanted to give the Harbor Freight containers a try. I only had, the set with, what is it, 24, 28, 28 maybe? 24, I think. That's all I had. One thing about a Huacan piece, they always come in bags. So I wanted to try the Huacan or the Harbor Freight containers. I also wanted to try just working directly out of the bags because I've never done that. So in the last couple of days, not with this piece because I just started this one today, but with a couple of other pieces that I've worked on, I've tried various methods of trying to work out of these bags and keep them organized, and it just was too chaotic. I just couldn't keep it straight in my brain. So what I did was I took my Harbor Freight containers and I numbered them, like this one says 1 and 2. I don't know if you can see that. 1 and 2. And so I have bag number 1 and 2 in here. The next one has 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. Well, you just kind of get the idea. So that way I have some way of sort of, kind of keeping them straight and knowing where they are and keeping them all together. Some of the bags were, nice big size bags and wouldn't fit in there. So what I did with that was I skipped one of the numbers and I made some of the containers larger with just one number on them. So I'm thinking that I may go and get myself another set of Harbor Freight containers and go ahead and renumber these, 1 to 28, 1 to 24, and then the next one, 24 to, this one has, 48 colors. This kit has 48 colors in it. So number each of them 1 to 24 and try it that way, but just kind of something different than what I normally do. So I want to try, before we really get started here, I want to try to zoom you in just a little bit so you can see what I'm working on. I may have to adjust things a little bit. Okay, let's see. That gives us a pretty good area, and I feel like that's going to give you a pretty nice view of what I'm working on. Let's see, I can maybe slide, maybe right about there. Okay. That should be pretty good to get us started. So hopefully you've got a whip and you can, just work right along with me and we'll make some progress on our pieces. So, like I said, I am very excited about doing the drills and chills. Shanda again told me about that, and I was just really excited to try it. I guess I better choose a color. So I'm going to choose number 8, which is number DMC color number 225, and it's the check mark. So there's my bag of 8s. Nice and easy. Got to put some in my tray here. And we'll get started. Okay, like I said, I kind of wanted to talk about some Halloween stuff, and kind of what I was thinking was kind of talking about Halloween then and Halloween now. So kind of what my memories are of Halloween growing up compared to the things that I do for Halloween as an adult. So I thought that would be kind of fun. So for this first Whip and Chat, what I wanted to talk about was Halloween costumes. When I was a little kid, I don't know about you if you participated in Halloween, I always got super, super excited when it came time to start thinking about costumes. I have no idea when the, sort of, modern, commercially available Halloween costumes started showing up in the stores, but, I am in my 50s, so when I was a kid, we didn't have the, really nice Halloween costumes that you can even find like in Walmart or, Target. Today, a lot of the costumes are made of materials, and they're not the greatest quality, but they're definitely a lot more realistic than anything that was commercially available when I was a child. When I was a kid, what was widely available and what most kids wore were plastic Halloween costumes that were sort of printed with whatever the character or whatever that costume was supposed to represent. And they were made out of material that was kind of similar to the real thin disposable plastic tablecloths that you see today. They were maybe a little bit more durable, but it was kind of a plastic that was, kind of real similar to that. So there was, like I said, the printed costume with the character or, whatever it was trying to portray that you would have. And then along with it always came a hard plastic mask, and it fit right over your entire face. And it had little, areas that you could see out the eyes, and had holes for your nostrils so you could breathe a little bit. And usually a hole, well, not usually, it had a hole where your mouth was so that you could breathe a little bit better and, be able to talk and things like that. And it covered your entire face. And that's what, kids typically wore. When I was a child, that, however, was not what I wore. I was a pretty spoiled little kid in some ways, and I was very small and very thin. I'm still thin today. We didn't really even realize until my children became adults and they struggled as much as I ever had with trying to keep their weight up and, being on the small side. We're real small boned and, just very tiny people. So as a child, that was definitely true. I was, very small, sort of underweight. So a lot of clothes that you could buy in the stores didn't fit me. My grandmother, and who was a very talented seamstress, and also a seamstress that we knew in the town that I grew up in, made a lot of my clothes. And because my Nana was so talented at creating wonderful garments, we would always go to the fabric store and choose a pattern and material for my Halloween costume, and she would make my Halloween costume every year. So my costumes were always really elaborate and really fun. Some of the ones that I remember the best from when I was a kid is one year I remember I was a clown. One year I was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, complete with the pinafore and the red slippers and, just the whole 9 yards. I was a cheerleader one year, and of course she used the colors of our, local high school, so I thought I was pretty hot in that. Let's see, clown. I was a scarecrow one time. I'm sure it was probably a princess at some point, but I don't really remember that. But yeah, she just made me a lot of really super nice Halloween costumes. And I always, from the time we picked out that pattern and I decided what I wanted to be for that year, I always loved Halloween and just that whole, that whole idea of dressing up and make believe and feeling like I was somebody else was just so much fun for me. Oh, another year I was a cowgirl. Um, so I had a cowgirl costume. Or actually, it was more like a rodeo princess costume. So yeah, I just had a lot of really fun Halloween costumes growing up. And I was very lucky that, those were created for me by my grandmother. Sometimes I would go to school and the kids at school would say, I had these very beautiful, I mean, some of the pictures still exist. So I have these very beautiful, very well made Halloween costumes. And the kids would tell me, especially like in maybe third and fourth grade, they would say, "Oh, that's really dumb." And that always hurt my feelings and, made me feel bad. Of course, I was too young to realize that probably what part of that was is I had the super elaborate Halloween costume, and, you know, they had one that was basically a plastic tablecloth. So I'm sure that although it made me feel bad and feel like I was being picked on a little bit, I'm sure they felt bad too. Kids are kids, and I think most of the time, a lot of people talk these days about kids being bullied and made fun of, and it's not a good thing, but I think sometimes the kids just don't know how to express what they're thinking and feeling, so they will end up, maybe saying something in such a way that it hurts another child's feelings. And that was the case for me sometimes. And then, sometimes it wasn't, but I really always enjoyed having those Halloween costumes and, wearing them not only for Halloween, but, I would play with them and do dress up and stuff for the entire year. So that was always super awesome. I think that probably if I had to have picked one of the Halloween costumes that was my favorite ever, yeah, that would be hard. It would probably be either the Dorothy costume or that cheerleader costume. I remember both of those very, very clearly. So that was a lot of fun. So that's kind of what I did to dress up for Halloween as a child. Um, there is a part of Halloween that I will always, always remember. I was very fortunate to grow up in a very small town, and so Halloween was a huge, huge, huge deal. There were hardly any houses in town that had their porch lights off, that did not, give out candy for the kids. So my parents would take me out, and we would just spend hours trick or treating. I would trick or treat until I was just so tired I didn't want to trick or treat anymore. So Halloween was always a pretty special time for me growing up. One of very good childhood memories, and one of the things that I look back on my childhood very fondly. When I I was always, when I started having my own children, Halloween was always just as about as exciting to, participate with them as it was for me. I had 4 kids, and we didn't have a lot of money when they were small, so I didn't sew, so I wasn't able to make the kinds of Halloween costumes that I grew up with. So I would be real creative. I would put a lot of their Halloween costumes together from thrift stores, or one year we got into it as an entire family, and we created our Halloween costumes, and it's really hard to describe, but we went as a living room. It's hard to imagine, but one of the kids was a coffee table, and on this child's back, and they would get down on all fours at some point. We attached a tabletop complete with a plant and I think a TV guide and a remote control. A friend of mine went with us and she dressed up as a chair, so she was the chair. One of the kids, or it might have been me, I think I might have been a house plant. And then one of my daughters was the television, and we created a cardboard box, and she would be the television, and as you would change the channel on her box, she would change what she talked about. I'm not putting any drills down. I gotta pick a symbol here. Let's see, let's grab 17. She would change what she was talking about. She would be a commercial or the news or the weather or whatever the popular shows were back then. So that was really fun. So I have some good child memories of my kids and Halloween as well. When I was 30 years old, something happened that kind of changed Halloween for me forever. And it took the shine off Halloween for a couple of years. My dad was at that point in his life working at a fish processing plant where he was in an accident, and he was up on a ladder filling a truck with wastewater, and he fell off that ladder and hit his head on the concrete. And he of course had severe head trauma, and he was in the hospital in a coma for about 12 days, and then he died on Halloween. I had been with him the entire time, didn't leave his side. My children were with my stepmom and stepbrother. My stepmom and my dad were no longer married at that time. I should probably make that clear. But anyway, they were being cared for by my stepmom and my stepbrother. And I didn't really even realize that it was Halloween. I did have to decide that it was time to shut all the machines down and let my dad go. And I didn't realize that it was Halloween. So many days had passed, 12 days. Like I said, I didn't leave him. I either stayed in a apartment that the hospital had, or on a cot in his room, or in a chair, or but I had been there for 12 days. And after he had passed and I had gone out to the nurse's station to sign some paperwork, I looked over and they had a pumpkin with some kind of lights inside it, plugged in, some sort of electric little pumpkin. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's Halloween. So I called my stepbrother and sister-in-law and told them, I said, please make sure my kids get to go trick-or-treating. And they said, don't worry, we already have it planned. We already, we're going to make sure they go. So they did go trick-or-treating that year, and I dealt with all that. And then the following year was the first anniversary of my dad's death. And so it was a little bit hard for me. That first year after you've lost someone is really hard. I did not participate in Halloween that year. I let my husband take the kids out, and I just took some time for myself. But kind of after that, I realized that what my dad would want is he would want me to go on and make Halloween special for my kids, and to honor him by making sure that Halloween wasn't a horrible day for them. So after that, that's what I did. So my dad had a really good sense of humor, and I kind of joke that it was, sort of rude for him to die on a day. I mean, couldn't he have just gone on a random Tuesday? Because it's a little strange, because when, you know, this time of year rolls around, people are always putting up, you know, in the stores and stuff, there's Halloween decorations and costumes and stuff. So I think about my dad a little bit more this time of year. I think about him always, and I miss him, but it does get a little bit tougher this time of year. So let's see. So that's kind of what went on in my 30s. But like I said, after that, I did go on to, you know, try to make Halloween special for my kids. So I've got another really fun story to tell you about Halloween costumes, but it looks like it's about time for me to start another clip. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'll tell you the story. Okay, so one of my favorite Halloween costume stories is about my grandson, Wyatt, my oldest grandson. He was born to my daughter that passed away, and when she was alive and Wyatt was little, he was my first grandchild, and he was definitely the apple of my eye, and spent a lot of time with me. In fact, he lived with me kind of off and on when he was real small, before 5 years old. But for whatever reason, my daughter she took him trick-or-treating his first year. I went with them. I'm one of those grandmas that really likes to be involved in all the holiday things. That's really fun for me. So I did go trick-or-treating with them for their first Halloween, and I think his second Halloween. And by the time he was 3, I don't know if she had been invited to a party or what the deal was, or if he was living with me at the time. I'm not sure what was going on, but anyway, he was at my house. I don't think he was living with me because she bought his Halloween costume. So, but I don't know if she was going somewhere, if she had a party or exactly what, or I think she had to work. She had to work that night. So, she wanted me to take Wyatt trick-or-treating. So of course I was more than happy to do that. My youngest son, Adam, there's quite a bit of, age difference between him and his older sisters. So he was probably, I think, about 13 at the time or so. And him and his best friend would always go trick-or-treating in the little bitty town that I lived in. His best friend Josh, who's his cousin, my nephew, would come up and we'd all go trick-or-treating together. And for whatever reason, when I asked Naomi what she had gotten Wyatt for a Halloween costume, what he was going to be for Halloween, she said, well, he's going to be a hot dog. And I said, a hot dog? She said, yeah, I got him a hot dog costume. It's really cute. So sure enough, when I went and looked at the costume, it was a hot dog. He was going to be a hot dog for Halloween. So I said to myself, I said, if he's going to be a hot dog, then I am going to make Josh and Adam be mustard and ketchup. So that year, that was one of the kind of hot costumes, was you could be a hot dog and you could get mustard and ketchup bottles. So that's what I bought for the two 13-year-olds. They were mustard and ketchup, and Wyatt was a hot dog. And I had a little dog named Willie. I still have him. He doesn't live here in California with me. He lives in Washington on a farm. But my little dog Willie, a little tiny Jack Russell Terrier, very small one, I got him a pirate costume. So I have this picture that every year pops up into our news feeds, and it's of Wyatt as a hot dog, Adam as mustard, and Josh as ketchup, and Willie as a pirate. And so every year we, send those pictures back and forth to each other on Facebook and have a lot of fun with that. Well, one year, I think it might have been last year, Wyatt saw that picture. Now by this time he's 12 years old, and he looked at me and he said, Grandma, that was not very nice of you to make me be a hot dog. And I said, honey, it wasn't Grandma that made you be a hot dog. That was all your mom. So we all got a good chuckle out of that. So those costumes, I think, will go down in family history. So that's one of my favorite Halloween costume stories. So the other part of this is what I do for Halloween now. Of course, I moved to Southern California a couple of years ago to be down here with my daughter and 4 of my 7 grandchildren. And so, like I said, I am that grandma that likes to do all things holiday and be involved. That's super fun for me. So every year since I've been here, I go trick-or-treating with the grandkids. There's a couple of things we do. First of all, the church next door that started our shelter program here, they have a huge Halloween, well, actually it's a harvest party for for not the neighborhood, for the town every year. And when I say huge, I mean huge. They have bouncy castles and a live band and carnival games, and they have cakewalks, and yeah, it's just, and food trucks and popcorn and everything except for like the food trucks it's all free. And so every year for the past 2 years, my daughter has brought my grandkids over here, and they wear their Halloween costumes. And the first year, my oldest granddaughter and I both dressed as fairies, had sort of matching fairy outfits, so that was really fun. And then, so we do that every year. That's become a tradition. The kids just love it. One thing that's kind of fun, that'll probably also end up being one of those family stories that we'll talk about forever, is my granddaughter that just turned 6 this year. Last year at Halloween time, when we went over to the church, of course, all of the kids from here at the shelter were there. And, you know, they see me walk into the room and they come running across and they're, Miss Karen, and, you know, giving me big hugs and stuff. And, you know, every time one of those kids would call my name and come running across the room, my granddaughter would grab a hold of my leg with both her arms, and she would just lay her little face up against my leg and just hold on for dear life. And as we were leaving, she looked up at me with her big blue eyes all watery and tear-filled, and she said, Grandma, I don't like it when those kids call you Miss Karen and love on you. She said, you're my grandma. So then we had to explain to her that, you know, her and her brothers and her sister and cousins have a very, very, very special, and are number one in Grandma's heart. But, you know, Grandma also loves the kids that live here because, you know, they're going through a hard time, and some of them may not have grandmas, or have grandmas that are close by, or whatever the case may be. And that, you know, Grandma would always love her and her brothers and sisters and cousins best, but, you know, it was okay for Grandma to love the other kids too. So I don't know if we'll have that experience again this year. It might be a little bit easier. She's been spending a little more time this past year, kind of, you know, here at the shelter with me visiting. She spent the weekend last weekend, spent the night for the first time, so it might be easier. Plus, she's a little bit older. Who knows? I may have her younger sister kind of react the same way this year. I don't know. But that's kind of fun. So we do that every year. And then the other thing that I've done every year since I've been here, I've only been here for 2 years, but I definitely don't plan on stopping, is then I go trick-or-treat. I go over to my daughter's in-laws' house, and from there we go trick-or-treat in their neighborhood. And for the past 2 years, my daughter and I have been wearing sort of, not exactly matching, but basically coordinating Halloween costumes so that we're kind of festive as well. And interestingly enough, the past 2 years, we have been witches. The costumes have been a little bit different, but that's what we've done. So I don't know, maybe we're not very imaginative, or maybe it'll be a new tradition. Maybe me and Sarah will be a witch every year. I don't know, but it's kind of fun. It's been pretty traditional that the live on site resident managers stay home and like do the trick or treating, passing out of the candy for the kids here at the shelter. But of course, I don't do that. That's not something that I do here. In my next whip and chat, or one of my whip and chats coming real soon, I'll talk a little bit about Halloween decorations. So I'll talk more about what I do here at the shelter when I do that whip and chat. But I don't stay home and pass out candy here at the shelter because, you know, one of the entire reasons why I came down to California was to be with my family and my grandkids, and like I said, be that grandma that, you know, gets to do all the holiday things. So that's really important to me. It's really important. I'm hopeful that we're building memories that, you know, they're going to have for a lifetime. Just like I remember my Nana participating in my Halloween by making me all those Halloween costumes. I'm hopeful that, you know, the things that we're doing kind of year in and year out will be things that my grandkids remember as well, and that will be a super big part of their Halloween. So let's see, what color should I work on next? Let's see, I think I'll do an X 33. This is working, like I said, this is working out pretty okay. I think I may go pick up some more Harbor Freight containers though and number them individually, so that I can just kind of pour them out of the containers. I'm not so sure I like working out of bags. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I have time to even go get any Harbor Freights. It's working okay for now. Okay. Let me get myself set up here. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about as far as Halloween costumes. So what about you? Did you have a favorite Halloween costume when you were a kid? Something you really remember? Do you participate in Halloween? Some people don't. Some people, you know, do the harvest thing. Some people just love fall. Some people just love pumpkin spice, which I don't. I don't like pumpkin spice anything. Just don't understand that craze. What I do like in the fall and pretty much throughout the winter is hot apple cider. I love spice cider, and I have a recipe where I make some homemade spiced caramel cider, and that's always a big part of sometimes our Halloween and always our Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's one of my traditional, you know, favorite fall drinks that makes me think of the holidays and the cooler weather. So I'm looking forward to that. The fall here in California is super nice. I really like the fall. You know, the days are usually warm and pleasant, and at night the temperature drops. So I love fall here in California. I'm not such a big fan of winter. At least I wasn't last year. We had a lot of rain last winter, which I know we need it in California. You know, a lot of years they have drought conditions, and so they definitely needed the water. But the thing about California, I'm from Washington originally, and yes, in Washington it rains a lot. You get a lot of rain, and it's a really drizzly kind of constant rain through, you know, certain parts of the year, certain times of the year. But I'm used to that, you know, and I guess I'm just not used to the California rain, because down here in California, when it rains, I mean, it pours. It literally, you feel like somebody is dumping buckets full of water on you. It's just, it rains so hard, you can't see to drive. People use umbrellas. Nobody in Washington owns an umbrella. But I tell you what, I think this year, based on what I went through last year, I think I'm going to get one. In fact, I think I'm going to get a long poncho, maybe 2 of them, to cover my clothes, because one of the things I do every night is I go to the church that's next door that, like I said, started our program, and I check their doors to make sure that they're always locked, you know, that everything's always locked up. And I take one of the residents with me, just for safety's sake. And last year there were some days that, I mean, we just literally got soaked to the skin. I had a little rain jacket coat type of thing, but it just definitely wasn't adequate for what I experienced last year. So I think I'm going to pick up a couple of rain ponchos to try and keep myself dry during those wet spells that we get down here in California, because it's a whole different ball game. It's like, it doesn't rain often, but when it rains, the heavens unleash. So that's kind of been a bit of an adjustment to me. Oh my goodness. I can't talk half the time. I think that's that whole sometimers things. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about and sometimes I don't. So I think I'm going to place a couple more drills here, and then I am going to let you go. I've got a lot of fun stuff kind of coming up planned for my channel. You know, it's kind of been all things Dollhouse lately because I've started a Dollhouse project. I want to do some kind of whipping chats that are called Dollhouse Days and kind of share that with the people that are interested in seeing it. I do have another Halloween piece that's going to be arriving real soon, I think. It's a piece that I'm going to be working on. The famous Shanda Panda and I over at Creatively Shanda are going to be doing a collaboration, so that's really exciting. That's going to be really fun. Yeah, so I've got some exciting things planned. Hopefully it'll be an awesome fall and wonderful kind of kickoff towards the holiday season, and hopefully I work quickly enough that I'm able to get 2 Halloween pieces done by October 31st. That's the goal. I've still got several things I'm working on, so lately it just feels like I don't get anything finished, but you know, it's okay. I guess I'll just rotate between them or something like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I've got all of these 4s once I place this. Oh no, one more. We're gonna do one more. In my next whip and chat for this haunted dollhouse, my plan is that we are going to talk about candy, candy. And when we talk about candy, candy, I'll tell you why when I talk about it, I say candy, candy. So I will see you guys for that real soon. Thanks for watching. If this is your first time here and you're not a subscriber, I would love to have you subscribe. If you're a regular here, thanks for coming back and watching me kick off my fall. And I will see you real soon. Bye.